This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Yeah, hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Teider. My guest today is Rachel Pierre, and Rachel is a fellow podcaster. She's the host of a big podcast called Mommifaceted, and I heard Rachel speak at the Podcast Movement Conference. She was talking about diversity in podcasting, and I just loved her so much and loved the topic. I asked her to be my guest. Hi, Rachel, and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me and for the kind words about my talk at Podcast Movement.
Yeah, I loved it.
Great, thank you.
Will you tell me more about Mommifaceted? Because I know that it's a podcast, but it's also a community, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. We are a community of mothers. Essentially, we talk about the working mom struggles. You know, how do you switch your hats from work to going home and then back again? We talk a lot about what happens when moms are really passionate about working and, you know, not just being just a mom, but you're also, you know, professional, or you may have other aspirations and dreams. And so we talk about how to do all of that. I interview other successful women, mainly Black women, who are doing all of these things. They are either beauty editor of Cosmo magazine or one of the vice presidents at the NFL. So these are women who have, you know, really high level positions. Some of them have their own businesses. And then some of them are just everyday moms just in the middle of climbing the corporate ladder. And so we talk about all of these things in conjunction with our responsibilities at home. And so I do have the community as well. We have a very active social media account on Instagram, and then email list and website. So all of these things are kind of talking about all of these different aspects. And that's where Mommifaceted really comes in, is because we are multifaceted. And we can all do so many things, you know, as you know.
Yes.
And so, you know, that's really what we like to dive into.
And we can all burn out.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
cry for help, call our friends and be like, I can't anymore.
Yes.
That's when we need the community.
Yes. And talk ourselves off the ledge when we're getting close.
How did you start it, and when and how?
Yeah, so I started about 3 years ago, almost 4 now. And really, I was a new mom. And I was trying to find just women who I could tap into, learn from. I am in a state where I wasn't raised in. So just finding mom friends and finding my community was really difficult. It still is. And so I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was thinking about, you know, kind of getting back. I used to blog when I was younger. And I just was trying to figure out like how I could have these conversations. And I started with the idea of a blog, but realized that not as many people are reading blogs. And, you know, like we're having this conversation, we can talk, we can really explain things and expound upon what we mean. And I just felt like podcasting made so much more sense to actually have conversations. And so I just started, you know, I had the idea in, I think like September of 2017. And by January, I was releasing my first episode. So I just sort of jumped in, started recording. And so far it's taken me on a nice journey of just experiencing and understanding what motherhood can look like.
Very exciting. How many children do you have? What are you juggling?
I have 2. Yes, I have 2 boys now. So we have grown since the beginning of the podcast. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, both boys.
Oh, wow. Rachel, let's talk about our topic, which is mamas, our mamas. Tell me about Mama Donna.
So my mom is, she is a great example for me. Growing up, she was a working mom as well. And so I always saw her fully intense on work and fully intense on home life. She grew up in California and in Chicago, kind of in both places. And her mom did not work in the home, but she was always reading, always studying. And so I think my mom took that to the next level by always being involved, making sure that we were as involved in the things that we needed to be involved in, but also really prioritizing who she wanted to be in the workplace. And then just taking care of our family, making sure that we did things like go to church and, do all the holidays with our family and our friends and all the birthday parties. I mean, she did everything from scratch. And, she really was doing all of these things. And I don't know how she was doing all of that.
Rachel, what was her profession? What did she do for work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she still works. She works for the federal government. Mm-hmm. So she worked for Homeland Security, and now she works for NASA. And so public servant. And, she worked for the public professionally, but then on the side as well, she volunteered a lot. And, really got that ingrained in my sister and I as well.
So she had a real 9-to-5 job. She had a
Absolutely.
real thing going on. And how many children did she have?
2. Yeah, mm-hmm. 2. Me and my sister.
Mm-hmm. And she managed to do everything at home, as you say, from scratch. I don't know. We often talk about this and we wonder how our moms did it and what changed and why do things seem more difficult for us nowadays. It's interesting.
It is very interesting. We talk about that a lot too, and I think about it a lot. I think about how I can fit more into my day, and then I have to step back every once in a while. Kind of like you said in the beginning, when you get close to that burnout and you realize I really don't need to be doing all of these things. I probably just need to focus on 4 things rather than 8 things, and keep it at that. And just looking at my mom and how she was with us, I really feel like she almost had no time. I don't know, how she scheduled everything, but it felt like she was always doing something, always working on something or going from here to there. And, I think that's definitely one of the lessons that I've taken from her is that, if you want to be doing these things, you can fit a lot of things into your day if you're really diligent and regimented. I mean, obviously social media wasn't a thing. So she wasn't, scrolling on Instagram during the day like I find myself doing. But, she had other outlets. And so I think, just seeing how she was keeping a schedule and very consistent has just shown me that, those things that you prioritize, that you stay consistent in, it's possible to do what you want to do if you're not trying to do everything under the sun.
Yeah, I had a guest who is a social anthropologist specialized in parenting. And it was very interesting for me to learn from her about why and how motherhood became recently so complex and so, I'm missing a word in English, when it's asking a lot of you, when it's so...
Like demanding.
Demanding, yes, that's the word. And it was interesting to learn from her that a lot of it has to do with these new findings in raising children and neuroscience and how this attachment parenting works and how much involvement they need and love and attention from their parents to be. So this changed a lot. I think our mothers, would just let us play or pack a sandwich and let us eat. And as my guest said, now we are thinking, is the sandwich nutritional? Is there anything poisonous in it? Then we think about the textures, and then we are so much more involved in mothering.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And as you're saying that, I was thinking about, like you said, we just went outside to play. Like our summers, that was all it was. We were outside all day. We came in for lunch, went back outside, and she didn't have to worry because we were all on our street and we weren't anywhere. We were outside in front of our house. And we lived off of turkey sandwiches and we made it okay. And,
yes.
Grilled cheese and it's fine.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is 100% right. We have this thought that if our kids are not following a certain diet or if things don't look a certain way, how is that going to be not even just perceived? I think we're also worried about what we think will harm our children.
Exactly,
because, maybe we just know more or we're doing more research or it's in front of us more. So, I don't think it's all vanity. I think a lot of moms are worried about, their kids' nutrition. But to your point, is that really, going to hurt them or help them in the end if you are always there to help and fix all the problems and make everything right? And, I think that's a great conversation to have about how much do we need to be involved.
Yeah, exactly. And as my guest said, children are much more robust than we think right now.
Yeah. I know. I always think about when we left the hospital and my nurse was giving our son a bath and she was just rough. Like she was turning him over
Yeah.
and flipping him and scrubbing. And I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, he's fine. This is like, he's made of bones and skin. He's not going to hurt. And it's been true. I mean, they bumped their heads and they're fine. They are fine.
Rachel, so Mama Donna is still working, you said?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is she an active grandmother?
She is. So my mom is, she's just active in general. So I joke with her that I have to get on her schedule to, get her to babysit because she likes to stay active. So she, has dance classes that she does, and she, works, and then she has a Bible study that she attends. And
how old is she? She's still dancing?
Yeah. So she is, oh gosh, she's going to kill me. She is mid 50s.
Okay.
Yeah. Like mid to late 50s.
What kind of dance classes does she do?
She does them for exercise. So it's like, what is it called? They practice routines and they, kind of have a little fun with it. But it is actually an exercise class. So,
wow. Cool.
Yeah. She loves it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she is very active, but then she always comes over. We got her to move down to Texas where we live right before we had our boys. And so, all in the master game plan, it worked out that she's close by.
Let's jump into her lessons. You've already mentioned that you've learned that it's all about planning and you can do it all if you prioritize. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, if you prioritize, and I'm saying you can do it all as in those top priorities.
Yes.
Obviously there's some things that you're just not going to have time for. And I think for her, she really focused on like 4 or 5 things that she consistently did. And the rest of the stuff I didn't see her do. I didn't see her sitting with us and doing, maybe movie nights a lot, but we were always doing our, sports activities together or making food in the kitchen, like those kind of things. She was always, so there are certain things that, she would and wouldn't do, but I think those 4 or 5 things that she consistently did, she hit those out of the park. And then all the rest just kind of got left behind. Yeah. So I think, that is the main thing. One of the things that I saw from her that I probably would do maybe a little bit differently is, like I said, she was very involved in all of the things that we did. And she really made our village out of a lot of different friends and family members. And I kind of have a little bit of different view just because we have moved to a space where, I didn't grow up here. So I've been having to try to build friendships, whereas she kind of had them, over the years. And so now, some of those village members are maybe virtual, or they've had to come from hiring people to help. So my village looks a little bit different than how her village looked to help raise us. The other thing is that she always showed her passion for work. She was always a manager. From the time I can remember, she was a manager of people at work, and she would stay late, go in early when she needed to. She would speak up and be vocal at the table. As a Black woman, she was passed over a lot, but she really stayed with her goal and her mission of becoming, one of the top level executives in her organization. And so, that has really rubbed off on me. I have a full-time job. I also run the podcast and the community. And, I do the things at home that I do because I have this internal drive. My husband always asks me, like, why do you feel like you need to be doing something? And I don't know. That's how I feel. And I think it is from her and seeing how hard she worked, and that passion has definitely rubbed off on me. And so I am intentionally showing my kids, look, mommy has a meeting right now because I have to work to have money for our things that we buy at home, just like daddy has to work. Both of us work hard. And so just really letting them understand what it is that I do as age appropriate as I can. And just showing that passion, that hard work really is important to our family. And then the last thing that I was kind of thinking about in preparing for this talk was just about how my mom put us to work at home. So it wasn't just that we saw her working, like we had to get up and work. So every Saturday morning we were cleaning the house. If we said a word we didn't understand, she would make us look it up in the dictionary right then and there. We always had to do our homework before we played. All of these different sort of things that were instilled in us. Again, it's that consistency. We always had routines, specifically with work and chores. Like my sister and I, one of us would take upstairs, one of us would take downstairs, and we would clean, or we would, go outside and help them in the yard or whatever it is. But we started so young that it really just became natural to us. So that really was one of the things that I want to do as well.
That's so important, especially I think if you have boys.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because girls tend to, I have a feeling, naturally be more inclined to be helpful and around the house and everything. And if you have boys, you really have to, as a mom, you really have to push yourself. And I'm trying to do that as well, to be like, no, you're putting these things in the dishwasher now and help me fold the laundry and everything.
Yeah,
because it's important that from when they're little, as you say, they just get used to it being normal. It's normal that we all share and create that work habit, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rachel, we skipped my favorite lesson. We skipped lesson number 1, which is something my mom taught me as well. When you send me your lessons, you said sacrifice comes in seasons.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about this one, because I love this one. And my mom was working so hard on trying to convey this to me. And the older I grow, the more I understand it. And I think it's so important for women to understand that.
Yeah. And I did have that as number 1, and then I completely skipped it because I feel like it is so important. Like you said, sacrifice will come in season. So right now my kids are young, and I feel as though I'm sacrificing a lot. I'm sacrificing my time, my money for daycare, doing things at the house that, maybe I wanted, like I had to take off all of my decorations at a lower level because they're going to get into it, sacrificing my physical body to carry them and then breastfeed and, not being able to work out. I think you can look at it as a sacrifice. And right now, it is more. There's more stress on me as a mom because they're so young and they need me. Like my 1-year-old literally cannot do anything for himself besides make a mess somehow. So yeah, it is sacrifice. It's something that I asked for. I'm not complaining because I wanted, to have these children, and I'm so thankful that they're here. But there are things that I just simply cannot do. But I know that will change. I make it a point to have friends that are at different stages. So some of my friends whose kids are older, they don't see their kids until dinner time. And, I'm like, man, that might be nice every once in a while, just have a quiet house. And I could, sit and get some things done. I can eat my food when it's hot, those kind of things. But I know that time will come, and there'll be things at that point that I miss about my kids at a younger stage. So, I think there's just a point when you have to realize that your life is going to be a little bit different. And it may be for a month, it may be for 2 years, it may be for, however long that season is. But because I wanted to have these children and they are so important to me, there's just things that I'm not going to be able to do. And I'm okay with that. And I found other ways to make it so that I am still doing things that make me happy or, give me joy or, fill myself up. I'm still making sure I do those things. It just may not be as often as I would like, or as, as frivolous or luxurious as I would like sometimes.
My mom was always trying to tell me that, especially when I had Kai, my son. She was saying women's lives come in phases and they change and it's normal. And as you say, right now you must sacrifice certain things, but it's not forever. There's a phase to stay at home and have a baby. There's a phase to throw yourself to your work. There's a phase, especially in a woman's life, for everything. And you just have to have patience and go step by step. So I think it's very, very important. That helped me personally a lot, keeping that in mind and watching her, as well, that she has had a career before me and then she had me and her work calmed down a little and then she went back.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is, to know that the time period will end and to look forward to that next stage, or just to know that it's going to be a change at some point, I think is helpful and helpful.
Rachel, we also had the trick question, which is, was there anything you wish your mama taught you, or was there something she was not able to teach you, something important?
Yeah, my mom was very much about us. So, she was doing things with us, for us. All of her free time was really spent shuffling us from sports activities to school to, aftercare, all of these things. And, one of the things that I've realized and noticed now that we are older and, not living with her is that she is figuring out what she likes to do and who she is and where she kind of fits in. Part of that is also my dad passed away 3 years ago. And so she's sort of, in this reinvention time. But really it started before that when she was, just free of responsibility and had to figure out, like, what is she going to do with this time? And so, I don't want to be in that position where 20 years from now, I'm looking up and thinking, man, like, what do I like to eat? Or what is it that I like? How do I like to dress my body? I want to be doing those things in the meantime. And so I think while she gave up a lot to make sure that we are, we were taken care of and we were at the places we needed to be, I don't know that she did that for herself as much as she could have. Mm-hmm. And I think right now self-care is so big. But I think this goes, kind of beyond self-care. It's more just keeping yourself as, keeping Rachel in the forefront as well. It's not just Rachel, I'm mom to Josiah and Johan. I'm Rachel and I like to do these things. And I have 2 boys and I also have a husband. It's part of that list. When I explain who I am, I want to be in there as well. Just as high as my family is. Mm-hmm.
Rachel, you did not have to move, because I think it's very, very cute that, you're the host of Mommifaceted and you're talking for Thank You Mama, and we're both mamas. And I think it's very cute. You can hear your kids in the background. Yeah. And I think everybody around the world nowadays, when we all work from home, understands that.
We understand now. Yes. If you didn't understand before, you understand now.
I think it's great.
Great.
Rachel, I have one last question, because I find it amazing that you're a mom of 2, that you work full-time, and you started Mommifaceted. What do you do for your full-time job?
Yeah, so I also work for NASA. I work so just coincidentally, I also work for the federal government, and I'm an analyst, so I do internal auditing. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Yeah. How do you do all of that? How do you manage to do all of that?
I'm very fortunate that my workplace is very family friendly. And so before the pandemic, I was already working from home a couple of days a week, and my husband has been very supportive. Like when I have an interview, he usually watches the kids, or he'll take them, to the outside or something like that to play. And then I kind of, going back to the number one point, sacrifice. I may stay up late or get up early to do things for the podcast so that I can go to work. And it's important to me to have this space. And women have said to me, I'm grateful for this community, or that episode really hit me where I needed it. And so, I just have to find the time to do these things. It's important to me. And so I put that in as my, on my schedule, on my calendar. And then just try to fill in if there's any extra time left, doing what I can. But like I said, I keep those priorities, at always on top of mind. So home, my full-time job. And then when I have interviews or the time for Mommifaceted, that's when I fit it in.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Wow. You're a superhero.
Oh, thank you.
Rachel, thank you so much for being my guest. Is there anything we forgot or anything you'd like to add?
I think the main thing that I've just noticed from interviewing, I think I'm at like 120 women now on the podcast, is that they all just make things happen. Like they just do the work. And I think, this year has shown us that if there's anything that you really want, you just have to make it happen for yourself. You have to go for it. Obviously, you need support. You can't do it alone. But just hearing someone tell you, I don't think that's a great idea, or no, I don't think, like, that can't be a part of the factor of whatever it is you're trying to do. And I love that you take this time to really look back and think on what people before us, our own moms did. Because it was a different time, but there's so many lessons about, I can see my mom just making things happen and firing off at work and then coming home and, making sure that we were taken care of and just making all of these things happen. And so I think that's just a perfect message for this year, because it's been so difficult on all of us. And then, like I said, that's really been a lot of the success, or the reason for success a lot of my guests have had, is just they've been making things happen. So, not letting any of the negativity kind of keep you down, I think is just, is so important for us as moms. I think we feel that from inside, from outside, from, just all these different places. So to keep that in mind.
Yes. And follow your guts. This is what I learned as a mom. Seriously, just, and it's so important, such an important lesson for all the aspects of your life. You learn it as a mom, and then you apply it to everything else. Just follow your guts.
Yes, absolutely.
Rachel, thank you so much. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
Yes. If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyouMama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Tider. That's TAJDER. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.